Eden Zero has been on a roll lately, with chapter upon chapter of impactful introductions and meaningful character moments. Drakken Joe and Xiao Mei are characters that I am absolutely excited to see more of, and a good part of that excitement comes from how they were introduced by Mashima into the story. The writing of these past two chapters encapsulates what needs to be done in order to establish a more in-depth connection between characters and an audience. Hello everyone, I'm Ozzy, and this is my Eden Zero 43 and 44 chapter analysis. The beginning of chapter 43 starts us off with Spider rushing into Drakken Joe, who happens to be in an important meeting. However, to fully grasp this scene, we need to take a step back to the past few chapters and recall the relationship between Drakken Joe and Spider. In previous conversations, we have heard mention of Drakken Joe being a dangerous man. But how dangerous? What does that really mean? Well, in order to scale our anticipation, we can go back to the previous villain, Spider. Although by the end of this arc we are made aware of how pathetic he truly was, the strength of his talents and the obstruction he demonstrated before our heroes still stands. Possibly the greatest weapon backing his actions was the threat of his superior's name and the danger that came with it. That name was Drakken Joe, the man called the most dangerous in the Sakura cosmos. So now that we have a backdrop for this scene, let's look into the meeting he was having and glean some details from his personality as we look deeper. Within this meeting, or more properly labeled a torture session, our expectations are almost immediately subverted as we learn that Drakken Joe barely has any kind of connection or relationship with Spider. He's more pathetic than we were led to believe. So much so that this torture session is far more important than whatever he has to say. And so he continues. As we watch this scene unfold, Drakken Joe gives us insight as to his philosophy. It's all about the money. Gains and losses are the only thing that move this ominous criminal. Drakken Joe gives us a glimpse into what his powers might be as he continues his lecture. My interpretation would be something along the lines of changing the properties of a substance. Although not expressly said, I believe that he changed the glass bottle into a far heavier substance. Through the next beautifully silhouetted panel, we are taught a valuable detail about our new villain. Killing is a loss. You can make your point without it. He isn't crazy, but we still feel a whole new layer of tension stretch across our minds as Drakken Joe sits down to reassure the poor victim slavery is a gain. We should also consider the dynamic of his crew as we look deeper into this chapter. Drakken Joe doesn't mind getting his hands dirty. What's more is the fact that he's still willing to rely on and utilize others as necessary. Diego reminds him who Spider is. Seth, without much of a warning, is relied upon to finish off Spider once his boss sees no more use in him. These are people that our villain has called on and seen as necessary. Conversely, we are also shown that he is willing to get rid of those that waste his time or drag his name through the mud. So Spider is taken out of the picture and Drakken Joe is clearly shown that he holds no interest in avenging him. So how does this villain now find any association with our heroes? It all comes back to his philosophy. It's all about the money. We now learn that their meeting was inevitable. The reach and determination of this character always had the potential to get in the way of our heroes. The sum of these qualities has sufficiently introduced a menacing new threat into this story. Moving on to chapter 44, we have another wonderful reveal, or perhaps better labeled as a twist. Throughout the story thus far, we have been given a friendly recap and introduction to our new arc and world. These intros have been curated by a character by the name of Xiao Mei, whom we as an audience have been given every impression that she is simply the narrator. As this chapter and new arc begin, we are given the same treatment, however to our surprise, we see that she abruptly must attend to something and leaves her narration. Moving along to the core purpose of this chapter, we are given some traveling downtime. Although some might dismiss this as simply filler content, I argue that there is true merit to this moment. Our heroes have been through a lot lately, both physically and emotionally. Hermit in particular has only recently joined our crew and still suffers from the trauma and mistrust from her past that she is determined to move forward from. This chapter is that first step. Although she has her own goofy moments, Mashima does a great job of showing her slowly shed her layers of discomfort. This entire scene is a welcome change in pace and helps to further solidify, build, and develop bonds between these characters that haven't known each other for too long, and I treasure each time we're allowed to see into their daily lives. We soon arrive at the smallest planet yet, Million, planet frozen in time. So far we've already been given a few mysteries to ponder as this arc develops. The planet frozen in time is not frozen in the traditional way we expected. The Palace of Knowledge seems to exude a level of ether that is unsafe for humans to persist in, and lastly, what kind of information will they obtain that will help them in their goal to find Valkyrie? As the gates of the palace open, we are shown an unusual sight of stars along the floor. Just as it all seems to click together, we discover that Xiao Mei is the legendary fortune teller our heroes have been searching for. To a first-time reader, this might seem underwhelming, but for those of us following from the beginning, to think that we would meet Xiao Mei in this kind of setting was unthinkable, and a wonderful surprise. I look forward to seeing how Xiao Mei interacts with our heroes, as well as the further development of Drakken Joe and his crew as they encroach on the crew of Eden Zero. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you want to see more. And if you never read Eden Zero and want to know more, here is a more in-depth video about it. But that's all for now. Thank you for watching. Seal.